Hey guys, let's take a look at Acts chapter 25. Now, it's a pretty easy read as long as you're good with names and history and all that kind of stuff, because really we're just continuing to follow the story of Paul as he is imprisoned. He's awaiting his trial. In chapter 24, we left off with Paul in prison there, and Felix was in charge, and he was there for 2 years. And then Festus takes over for Felix, a couple of funny names there. And Festus is, he's a new guy. He's a Roman governor, and so he's trying to appease everyone under his command. And so the Jews are saying, "Hey, we want to try him basically in Jerusalem." Well, Paul ends up denying all the charges against him in verse 8. He says, "I'm not guilty of any crime against the Jewish laws or the temple or the Roman government." And so Festus, he said, "Well, come on, let's go to Jerusalem and stand trial there." Paul says, "No way. I'm not going to go there. This is the official Roman court. I'm going to be tried right here." And so we see in the end of verse 11, he appeals to Caesar. Now that's important because his appeal to Caesar ensures that he's going to end up at the end of the book of Acts. He's going to end up in Rome, and that indeed is where he's going to end up standing on trial. Now, from his point of view, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing because it's just more people to share the gospel with. So he's getting sort of an all-expense-paid trip to Rome, and he's sharing the gospel with anyone who would hear it along the way. And by the way, King Agrippa here, as you continue to read this, King Agrippa comes into town, and so yet someone even higher than Festus. And so he's like, "Hey, I want to know about this prisoner. Tell me about this guy." And Festus says this in verse 18, "The accusations made against him weren't any of the crimes I expected." In verse 19, he says, "Instead, it was something about their religion, the Jewish religion, and a dead man named Jesus, who Paul insists is alive." Kind of an interesting statement of the gospel from the perspective of someone who doesn't believe it, right? But that's exactly what was happening. It's really a religious dispute, and it's really all about a dead man who's not dead anymore. It's Jesus, and he's the Messiah, and that's the gospel that Paul is trying to spread, and he's sharing it with anyone who would hear it. And so Agrippa, sure enough, says, "I'd like to hear the man for myself." And Festus said, "Okay, you will tomorrow." And so you can read the rest of that chapter as Paul now starts to talk to King Agrippa. And that's where we're going to pick up in chapter 26. We're going to hear Paul's address to King Agrippa. And once again, instead of complaining about the situation he's in, wrongly accused, he's in prison for years at this point, he just uses every opportunity as an opportunity to share the gospel. So as you read chapter 25, keep that in mind as you think about your own life and the ups and downs of your life and how you can use those things to share the gospel and keep focus on Christ and heavenward rather than on the stuff that's happening down here on earth. So go ahead and read chapter 25. We'll see you tomorrow for chapter 26.